Kamusta mga gamers? Game Ross here. Welcome to another my Wolcen build guide, and today I'm gonna talk about my Megaman build. And to begin this guide, first I'm gonna talk about my skills and their skill modifiers. So first is this Havoc Orb, which is your main skill, and I'm using this too for additional damage. This will add smaller grenades, and basically this will help your clearing speed. And I'm using this so you will fire rocket instead of firing bomb, and it will also add lots of weapon damage. And I'm using this for additional crit damage, and this will allow you to fire multiple rockets. Another skill is this Sovereign Shout, and this will give you attack speed buff, and I'm using this for increased effectiveness of the buff. This will add crit chance buff. This will increase the duration of the buff, and this will allow you to restore stamina. This will stun the enemies, and this will add resistance buff. And another skill is this Tracker's Reach, and I'm using this 4 modifiers for reduce cooldown. This will allow me to inflict stasis on hit, and this will allow me to pull myself towards the enemy. And another skill is this Dusk Shroud, which makes you invisible, and I'm using this for reduce cooldown. This will allow you to pass enemies while invisible. This will give you shadow damage, and this will allow you to regenerate stamina points. And another skill is this Warpath, which is another movement skill, and I'm using this to regenerate rage when hitting enemies. This will add resistance buff. This will allow you to charge much further, and this will add movement speed while charging. And another skill is this Wings of Shmir, which is another movement skill, and I'm using this to stun the enemies. This will reduce the cooldown to 0, but will cost you 1 stamina whenever you use the skill. And this will add damage buff whenever you hit an enemy. This will increase the jump speed, and this will allow you to regenerate rage whenever you use the skill. And in this build, I'm using this Trial Belt, which inflict Mark of Impurity to an enemy when you hit them. And for the skill modifier, I'm using these 3 for additional damage. This will inflict 10 curse stacks. This will add slow on the enemies, and this will add crit damage. For the attributes, 50% goes to toughness for additional health, and 50% goes to ferocity for additional crit chance. And for the offensive gears, first for the weapon, use one-hand pistol and just look for high total damage and high ether damage. And for additional damage, just look for shadow damage or sacred damage, or much better if you can find this occult damage on attacks with this weapon. And for the sockets, I'm using offensive number 1, and I'm using Amber Gem for additional ether damage on attacks. And for the rings and amulet, just look for any type of damage added to attacks, and also look for some attack speed as well. And for the socket, I'm using support number 2, and I'm also using Amber Gem for additional ether damage. For the defensive gear, first I'm using shield, and just simply look for high block chance, and I'm also using Bruiser helmet and Bruiser chest piece, and make sure that these two have high health points so you will have high regeneration. And for the rest, just look for high all resistance score and some rage and willpower cost reduction, attack speed, toughness, and transfer time reduction. And for the sockets for the helmet, chest piece, pants, and shield, I'm using defensive number 1 and number 2, and I'm using Alexandrite for additional block chance and block efficiency. For the skill tree, first I took this node for additional attack speed, and then I took this node for additional crit chance, and then after this I went straight to take these 2 nodes here for additional attack speed. And then after this two, I took this node for additional damage. And then this node so I can generate rage on kill. And then after this, I took this node so I will have additional damage when the enemies are slowed or with stasis ailments. And after this, I took this node so I will generate rage instead of willpower. And then I took this node so I will deal double damage when my rage is over 750. And that is why I took these three nodes here and this node here for additional max rage, so it's much easier to keep your rage above 750. And then I took this node here for additional projectile damage for each anointed ammunition points, and it's very important that you get this node as well because this will allow you to generate anointed ammunition points whenever you deal critical hit. And because of this node, you will always have 5 anointed ammunition points. And after this, I took these two nodes here for additional ether damage, and that additional ether damage will happen after 1.5 second delay. And then after these two, I took these two nodes here for additional max ailment stacks, and also this node so I will only take 40% damage, and then that other 60% damage I will take after 1 second. Then after this node, I went straight to take these two nodes here for additional health regeneration for every health points on my bruiser helmet and chest piece. So again, that is why it's very important that your bruiser helmet and chest piece have high health points. And then after this, I took this node for additional damage per inexorable points, and it can go up to a maximum of 10 points, and it will also give you reduced movement speed, and that is why I'm using lots of movement skill. And also take this node for additional health regeneration and resistance core. And I also took these three nodes here for additional damage, and it will be multiplied by your equipped shield block chance. And I also took this node here for additional damage. Just make sure that your power charge is on positive side, and it's pretty easy to keep your power charge on positive side because you will generate 4 power charges every second, and also whenever you use basic attack. And after this, I took this node for additional crit damage, and then these two nodes for additional damage to nearby enemies, and then I took these two nodes here for additional occult damage for every curse stack on the enemies. And yeah, I think that's all I can say about this build. Thank you for watching. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Magkita na lang tayo sa susunod na video.